Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Pros Devy Show. I am Tommy Harvey along with Andy Pham and SC Romero. Tonight, we're going to be discussing week 9 as that has already started, but we're going to talk about some games and some players that will be kicking off on Saturday. All that will be coming up next. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Got a couple of things of Devy news here to start off with. Yesterday, 5-star wide receiver Ryan Wingo out of Missouri committed to Texas. That was kind of thought to be a kind of a Texas and Missouri battle. For the most part, I know a lot of people in Missouri felt comfortable, felt real comfortable and confident that he was going to end up there. But he actually ends up committing to Texas yesterday, which that's probably a much better situation, anyways. I don't know if either one of you have been keeping up with Wingo at all, but he is a very, very good wide receiver prospect in the class of 2024. So there's another weapon for Texas to use, whether it's Arch Manning or Malik Murphy. And speaking of Malik Murphy, he is actually going to be starting this week in place of the injured Quinn Ewers. I actually like that move. I think Malik Murphy has a huge arm, and we're going to see what type of ability he has on the field starting Saturday. Do you guys have any thoughts on Murphy?
You kick it off, Andy, if you have anything on him.
I'm kind of excited for that. The thing that I like the most is how that should improve Xavier Worthy's stock. With him being the field stretcher and with Malik Murphy having that arm, you would expect to see some deep passes and it actually connecting. With Quinn Ewers, that was always his negative trait, is his downfield passing. He hasn't been the most efficient doing that. But I think what Texas should do to start the game against BYU is get the run game going with Baxter and then with my guy Jonathan Brooks. Get the run game going, just ease any nerves that Malik Murphy might have, and then boom, throw a deep pass, get him in rhythm after that, and then just let the game flow.
Just going off Wingo, right now on 247, the top 2 wide receivers in the class are Jeremiah Smith, who's at Ohio State, and then Wingo's number 2. I think Jeremiah Smith is the better receiver, but Wingo's the better athlete. Like, I think he's someone that can line up all over. He can be versatile. You can have him in the backfield. So adding that weapon to Texas is a great arsenal. And, with Malik Murphy coming in, this is a big game for him to show, like, look, I can take the reins, right? I can be that guy. And I think that's why they're doing it, because Arch Manning is kind of a project right now. So it's like, let's see what we got in him, because he's potentially our guy next year. So let's see what it is. And if he does falter or fail in any means, then we could see that shift to be like, okay, well, look, then we might, start going towards Arch. He has a few games that he could possibly do that, but definitely a big game for him, a bit, especially as BYU. This will be a fun battle, for him. He has weapons, and Texas is an all-around great offense. So there's no excuse for him not to be good right now.
Yeah, I'm excited about Malik Murphy. I've actually kept him rostered in several C2C leagues, specifically for this reason. In case Ewers ever went down, Murphy was always going to be that next guy up. But yeah, touching on Wingo, kind of steps in to that role next year. Obviously, Jonte Cook is probably going to take over that Xavier Worthy role, but then Ryan Wingo, another really good athlete stepping into that Texas offense next year. Texas just continues to build assets on the offensive side of the ball.
I mean, on paper, Jonte Cook, Baxter, and you have Wingo now. I mean, that's pretty deadly. You know, you just need the right quarterback there to make sure the plays can happen, and that's a dominant offense.
Yep, absolutely. Next thing I want to talk about, Caleb Williams. He's got to get back on track this week, right? I mean, they're playing a pretty bad Cal team. He's had 2 off weeks. His last couple of games have been pretty rough. I don't think that this is any cause for concern or anything. I just think it's kind of a USC issue, really. Lincoln Riley, was under the weather on Saturday. I don't know how much that affected play calling or whatnot. But it's just been the last couple of weeks. Things have seemed kind of off there. I don't think that that's much of a concern for Caleb Williams, but I would like to see him get back on track this weekend.
Yeah, that's actually a game that I'm actually going to be going to, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it's going to be an actually, I don't know, I could see it being like a 39-32, type of a game. USC's defense is horrible, and Jaden Ott plays well against bad defenses, and USC has a horrible defense. So I can see this game being closer than what people expect it to be.
Yeah, and we'll go back a couple weeks. It was when, excuse me, it was back a couple weeks. JT, one of our other guys that's on the show sometimes, he mentioned USC can lose 3 games. They've already lost 2, and it's because of that defense. I mentioned in my quarterback learnings on Sunday, Caleb Williams didn't lose last week's game. The defense did. He did what he had to do to take the ball down the field, get their team in position to win, and the defense ended up just blowing it, right? So here's an opportunity for him to get right. I mean, this is a must-win game. I say that because his next 3 games are Washington, Oregon, UCLA. So UCLA, I can see that as a win just because they have the rookie quarterback there or the freshman quarterback. But then Washington and Oregon, I mean, they're watching this tape and they're going to be watching his weaknesses. And if he showcases any kind of that, whether it be the defense just choking, Caleb Williams has to step up and do more than what the defense is even doing. Like he's playing more than just offense. Like he's figuring out, okay, my defense got hold of him. I need to make sure I'm getting 7 on the board, right? So this is a big game for them. I'm not concerned about him. He should still be the 101 because he still has everything. If anything, as I mentioned, off-field issues that kind of draw some concern. There's been a little bit of cockiness there where it's not really turning into confidence, So you gotta win, man. If you want to be that cocky, you gotta win against these games. And if you go out there and lose the Cal, it's like, man, I don't know if people want to fill these shoes, man. You can't beat them. I don't know. So it'll be fun to watch, though.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we got the Washington offense. They did not look good this past weekend. Kind of squeaked out a win against Arizona State. I would really expect for them to bounce back in this game against Stanford on Saturday. Stanford does not have a good defense at all. Jalen McMillan is expected to play. Question there is, with McMillan expected back, does Jalen Polk kind of take a step back into the shadows, or does he kind of continue along with what he's been doing the last few weeks?
I kind of wonder if they kind of like mix in Polk with McMillan, and then they start swapping more, and then when they go to their 4 wide receiver sets, then they're both in. That's been my concern with McMillan and his injury. If it'd be one thing if Polk hasn't shined, but with him shining, you can't really just say, hey, we're not going to play as much because, McMillan's back. That's just my only thing.
And last week, head coach Ryan Grove came out and said that McMillan was healthy enough to play, but they were just being precautious on him, which is great. You love to see that, right? Like, let's not rush him back. We're still doing good. Polk's rising here. We don't necessarily need you on the field. Get right. So if he comes back in this game as expected, I mean, this just opens up the offense even further than what we've seen. We've been talking about all season. Michael Penix knows how to spread that offense and knows how to get the ball to his weapons. And now you add in the emergence of Polk there behind McMillan and Odunze. That's another weapon that's going to open up McMillan and Odunze, right? If all three are on the field, now against a bad team like Stanford, it's just going to be a nightmare for them. Who are we guarding? Who are we double teaming anybody? Are we just doing coverage zone? What are we going to do here? And I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch that because McMillan's just another weapon that they can utilize, and with Polk there, they can definitely move him around the field and say, look, we can do some fakes to make it look like it's going to Polk, but then we have McMillan down low or something like that.
Right. All right. Another guy that we've talked a lot about lately, Ollie Gordon. Can he continue his hot play? Over the last 4 games, he has ran for 707 yards and 6 touchdowns. That is some solid play. I know we're all pretty high on him. At what point do we start to consider him a bigger Devy prospect than what we have been previously?
This one's tough for me because we know it's a system that produces running back stats. So we have to take that into consideration. So when I watch him, I'm watching his vision, I'm watching how he runs, I'm watching just pretty much all these little things. I'm watching, is he a good pass blocker? Just all these little things. But when he's going up against Cincinnati, who's giving up 214 yards, he's going to have another monster game on the ground, and we're not going to really learn much.
Yeah, but whenever you look at him, though, he's got that prototypical size, 6'1", over 210. He looks the part, and over the last several weeks, he's been the best player on the field, no matter who he's been playing against.
Yeah, like I think talking about when do we start making it, taking it seriously, is not this week, but possibly next week. When he goes against Oklahoma, that's a big matchup for them, and that's something that you'll have eyes on you. I mean, Oklahoma State, that's a huge rivalry there, so that's a week to showcase his skills because you can have a wider or a running back get tons of volume like he has been getting and produce. We've seen some bad running backs end up just producing with 20 plus carries, right? And he has been doing that. And he's been doing phenomenal with it. So if he continues to get that work, which he should, because he's shown he's a good player, right? It will be next week where we can start saying, okay, look, this guy is legit. Even if they go out there and lose to Oklahoma, which they right now on paper it looks like they should, but if they go out there and keep it close because Ollie Gordon's keeping them in the game, that's when it's gonna be like, okay, let's hold it on here. We need to start moving them in our ranks here of the 2025 class.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into a couple of games here. Let's talk about Oregon, Utah here. This is really a game for Bo Nix and the Oregon running backs and Troy Franklin to show how good they are. Utah has a really good defense, one of the best defenses in the Pac-12. I'm really interested to see how those offensive players for Oregon produce in this type of environment and in this type of game against good, against a good defense. We've only seen them play, they played well against Washington. I'm not sold on how good Washington's defense is, but I'm really interested to see how well they perform in this particular game.
Yeah, with Oregon, how I kind of describe them is they like to be pretty. They like to run fast, play fast. They're really not one to get really gritty. And with Utah, they make things ugly. So is this going to be more of a game where they lean on the running backs, Bucky Irving, James, or are they going to lead them? Or, can Oregon prove that they can win these dirty games where, it's going to be a slug out fest on defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge time matchup. It's a Pac-12 matchup, right? And you were talking about Troy Franklin and the running games. I mean, I've talked about him before. Cole Bishop is back there for Utah in the safety position, but then they have a star defensive lineman in Jonah Ellis, who will bring the pressure. That's a Bo Nix. So it's going to be nice to see what Bo Nix is going to do under that pressure. This is a guy that can get to the quarterback, get some sacks. He's strong enough to even maneuver around the double coverage when it happens to him. So it'll be nice to see what they can do. This possibly is the toughest defense that they're going to face this year. So in the past 2 years, Utah's had their number. I remember there was last year, the year before, it was like they had to win Utah to get to the championship, and they lost. Utah beat them twice that year. That was the Devin Lloyd years, I think a couple years ago now. But it'll be fun to watch, and I think Bo Nix knows in the back of his head, I need to show I can beat Utah because it's not an SEC defense, but it's damn near the best defense in the Pac-12.
Yeah, and we've seen in the past how Nix performs against SEC caliber defenses. I think Utah is very, very close to that. So this will go a long way in either proving Bo Nix is a legitimate NFL caliber quarterback, or if he's just what we saw when he played at Auburn.
Agreed.
Okay, next game. Speaking of the SEC, we got Georgia going up against Florida in this one. Who is going to step up in Brock Bowers' absence? Obviously, we know he's lost for the next several weeks with an ankle injury. He just had surgery on that. Who do you guys think is going to step up in Bowers' absence that will give us some type of production in terms of CFF, C2C, or even guys we're looking at in a Devy realm?
I'm going to go with a guy who's been quiet the past few weeks, and that's Mekhi Muse. And the reason why he's been quiet is he typically operates at the same level that Brock Bowers does. So with Bowers being out and with the tight ends having to be elevated up some, I think that's going to take the pressure off of the tight end. I think he's going to be called upon because he operates in that same area. So I would say him, but the obvious answer is Dominic Lovett. He runs those shorter routes, so he's the easy answer, but I'll go with Muse.
I mean, I'll stick with the tight end position. I think Oscar Delp, he has a big opportunity in front of him. We've been talking about in the past that they're an RB university and a tight end university. They've just been cycling through these guys, and Delp is the next man up. And, he has Pierce Sperling right behind him. So this is an opportunity for him to say, look, I am the next guy up. And if not, if he, just does anything that doesn't look right, it's like, okay, well, we can go to Pierce Sperling, who's the freshman there now too. So I think Delp can go in there. He's a big athlete. When he was in high school, he looked great. He has looked great on the offense for Georgia. And, obviously their running game needs to continue to be what it can be, but I think Delp can definitely be something that Carson Beck enjoys and something that can dominate this Florida defense.
Yeah, Beck's been really good this year too. I mean, he's got over 2,100 yards passing. He's well over 300 yards a game. And if you look at the distribution of where he's throwing the ball, it's really, really spread out. He's got Roseby Jack Saint. He's been throwing the ball to Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett, Ladd McConkey's come back over the last couple of weeks after being out for the first several, and then obviously Brock Bowers. You were talking about Oscar Delp. Man, Georgia really is spoiled with the tight ends that they've had lately. Obviously, nobody is going to be Brock Bowers, but Oscar Delp is pretty good himself.
Agreed.
As for Florida, are they able to keep it close here? I mean, the line I think is 14.5. Do they have enough on offense to be able to move the ball against Georgia's defense with Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne? And then with their wide receivers and Pearsall and Trey Wilson?
They have a tight end who's pretty good too, Boardingham, I think. So
Carlos
he
Fordingham, yeah.
yeah, so he's someone that can make an impact in this game. But I think at the end of the day, they have a weakness at quarterback, and that's going to be exposed.
Yeah,
Do they
Mertz wasn't very good at Wisconsin. He's putting up decent numbers this year, but again, I'm I'm not sold on Graham Mertz being much of anything. Especially whenever it comes to playing against good teams.
do they have enough to take apart the Georgia defense? No. But if Trevor Etienne and Montreal Johnson get it rolling, I mean, these are two guys that if that running game is working for them, it's hard to come back to it. So that's going to be a big piece to it. If they figure out, 'cause Etienne can explode at any given time, right? So if he just gets a couple 75-yard plays or anything like that, I mean, that's going to be hard for them. And if they know how to just feed him and they're just, inching by inching, just going down the road with them, then it is possible that we could see it. Will it happen? Probably not, because there's a lot of other faults in the Florida offense. But those are two guys that if they can lean on them, then that's a good tandem to lean on, because they can explode for big plays.
Yeah, Florida's been leaning more on Montreal Johnson over the last several weeks. Trevor Etienne hasn't had a big game since the Tennessee game several weeks ago. You know, since he exploded for what was like 170 yards or something crazy. Playing against Tennessee, and ever since then he's been struggling to get to that 50 plus mark, and so they've really been relying more and more on Montreal Johnson, and and as far as the receiving goes, you got Ricky Pearsall, who had a huge game against South Carolina, went 10 for 166. He's had one of the best catches of the season so far this year. That really incredible one-handed snag going across the middle of the field looked like he was about to get drilled by two guys. But they Florida does have some talent, but I'm a lot like you guys. I just don't think that they have the quarterback to be able to get it done there. Let's see. Let's move on to Ohio State and Wisconsin. I think the main thing here is, will Travion Henderson and Emeka Egbuka play? They've been out the last several weeks. I know that they're expecting Egbuka to play. I'm actually really worried about Henderson's health right now. I know Ryan Day has the tendency to really hold guys out as a precaution. And with his two backup running backs, that's not necessarily a terrible thing for them. But it really makes you nervous whenever you're looking at Henderson's long-term health issues.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern, especially for the NFL level, with the NFL scouting him. It's like, if you can't stay healthy against guys that aren't going to be in the league, how are you going to take that pounding week after week in the NFL? That's a huge thing. I think he needs to get out there.
Yeah, agreed.
And you're kind of seeing a little bit of this with somebody like J.K. Dobbins. He was kind of that same type of dude at whenever he was there. Was kind of hurt off and on. And then now in the NFL, it's just the same thing. He's just hurt all the time, and you're wondering if Travion's going to have that same type of fate for him.
And in my Twitter thread that I do, for Monday running backs, I mentioned I put Braylon Allen as my RB1 of the class. Big reason is because Raheem and Travion haven't been on the field. That's a big one of the first things when it comes to any kind of production is just showing up on the field, right? And if you can't do that, that's a huge loss. We see it head over hand, great talent, but that healthiness is a key factor. And whether it be maybe switching up a diet or just taking those bruises or whatever it may be, that is a concern for it. With Egbuka, I mean, if he sits out, Marvin Harrison can run that by themselves. We saw Brandon Ennis do some things. We've seen Carnell Tate do some things. So those are, it's not that huge of a concern. And I think NFL scouts already know enough about him where it's like, yeah, it's great to see him, but if you need to sit out to recuperate and make sure you're 100%, we can definitely do that. I don't think that's a huge loss to them, but Travion is definitely concerning moving forward because I still need to see some from him. In these last few weeks, I still need to see some from him to say, okay, he's someone that could be a day 2 pick.
Sure.
I think with Travion, it's a bigger issue than it is with Rocket Sanders. With Travion, we're talking about multiple years with multiple different injuries, and my concern has always been I don't think he wants to take hits. He looks to bounce runs outside, looks to run out of bounds instead of taking the contact. With Rocket Sanders, he just ballooned up to 242 pounds, and his body's just can't take that. But with Travion, it's becoming an issue that he might be having that label of injury prone.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and bounce over to our final game that we're wanting to talk about here tonight. That's going to be Colorado and UCLA. Kind of a juxtaposition here. You got a good Colorado offense going against a good UCLA defense, but then on the flip side, you got a bad Colorado defense going up against a pretty poor UCLA offense. What do you guys see here? I mean, is this just going to be where the type of game where something's got to give?
My confusion last week when UCLA benched Dante Moore was why. You have Stanford and Colorado. Those would have been 2 get-right games and get confidence in Dante Moore. But instead, you bench him for Ethan Garbers. What is that going to do in the future? Dante Moore can just go in the portal and go elsewhere. He's already been reported early in the season that he wasn't happy with his situation there. And then you bench him, and then they play 2 easy games. He doesn't get to show out. But as far as this game goes, I don't know. I think Colorado can win this. I mean, with UCLA, my big stock up guy, J. Michael Sturdivant, he needs to have a big game. Ethan Garbers needs to throw it downfield to him because Colorado can't defend anybody. So for UCLA, if they're going to win this game or stay close, J. Michael Sturdivant needs to be involved.
For Dante Moore, he just needs to, I'll go ahead and say, come back to Oregon. We'll accept him with open arms. So just come back, man. We're ready for you. But no, I mean, I think it'll be good. This is a game for Shedeur to go out there and showcase. Rumors are that he's gonna stay another year, which is good. I think he should. Because there is potential to be the 101 next year. So we're seeing some of his wide receivers emerge and everything. So if anything, this is just a showcase to be like, okay, look, we are big. I mean, they really need to try to win out as much as they can just to show we lost to some big games, okay, but we are still a good team. We are still electric. We are still explosive, and this is an opportunity to do it because UCLA does have that good defense that can run with them. And, Shedeur hasn't made the mistakes that I've seen other quarterbacks make. So, if he continues to go out there and just perform flawlessly as I have seen, then it's a good opportunity for him just to show, hey, maybe I can come out in this class and be a top prospect for y'all.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he comes back for another season. I think that this year's quarterback class is way too loaded. I think next year he could fight Drew Aller for that QB1 for that QB1 spot.
I do believe UCLA has a defensive lineman there, Layatu Latu, who's been hurt too. So I mean, if he's not good to go again, then that's a huge loss for UCLA defense there.
Sure. All right, well, guys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Andy, SC, go and tell us where we're able to find you guys and what it is you're working on.
You can find me at Andy_fam1. JJ McCarthy profile came out today, I believe. My reasons on why he should be the quarterback 3 of this year's class. And then tomorrow dropping a Devy and C2C games to watch. And then every Monday we do a Monday musings where we recap with Devy stock up, stock down, and new C2C names to watch.
On X, find me at the PPR. So every Sunday through Thursday, we're dropping quarterback, running back, wide receiver, IDP, and rankings for college football. And then Friday, just do a content, follow content creators thread there. Every Thursday, my RPO article for IDP start in the NFL, start sit came out. and then you can find some offensive Devy content on league winners. But then every Tuesday for Dynasty Pros, I have an IDDP players just talking about some independent defensive Devy players coming out this next Tuesday. We're going to talk about some defensive linemen that I'm excited about in the 2024 class.
Good deal, guys. Well, as always, we appreciate everybody watching and joining in. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the like button. Also, that notification bell will let you know whenever we go live. We will be off this coming Tuesday for Halloween. I know a lot of people want to go out and spend time with their kids, take them around. So we will reconvene next Thursday night for a Week 10 preview. Until then, you guys have a wonderful night. We'll see you guys later.